Hi there everyone, welcome to the complete crash course on Webpack. So in this video, we are going to understand what is Webpack, how can you implement it to your code base, and what are the benefits you can get by implementing Webpack by following the best practices. So without any delay, let's begin. So as you can see, I prepared a pretty beautiful presentation for you all. So let's get started with the Webpack crash course. So first, let's start with the introduction of the Webpack. So basically, Webpack is your module bundler, or it is often used to manage and bundle your various assets like JavaScript file, CSS file, and images for a web application. So in simple terms, if I have to break it down, you can think of it as a tool that takes many separate files like your JavaScript files, your CSS files, and also your images, and combines them into a single optimized files so that your web browser can easily load it. Yes, that's what Webpack is. In simple terms, just imagine you have a web application and your web applications may have multiple different files like JavaScript file, CSS file, multiple different images like JPEG, PNG, SVG and all. So what Webpack does is it takes all of those resources, your CSS, JavaScript and images, and combines them into one single optimized file, and it removes all your dead code as well, and then it makes your code more performant and optimized so that the web browser can easily load it. So yes, that's what Webpack basically do. Now let's talk about some of the benefits of Webpack. So number one benefits, it's module system. So by implementing Webpack, you can split your code into smaller chunks and more manageable pieces. Like you can create a different module for each feature, right? So that's the benefit Webpack gives you. And another is dependency management. So Webpack helps you configure out all the dependencies that you are using into your code base, and it makes dependency management really easy. And as I said, you also get some of the optimization benefits, like Webpack can optimize your codes and assets by removing dead code. Dead code basically are those lines of code that you are not using anymore, but it's still there in your files. Let's just say you have declared a variable and you are not using that variable anywhere, but it's just there. So it just removes those kinds of code. It also implements something known as tree checking by removing all the unnecessary and unwanted console logs. It minifies your files and brings all your JavaScript code into one single line. It creates bundles and much more. So these are the awesome benefits of Webpack. Now let's get started with the direct implementation of Webpack. Now as you can see that I have opened my VS Code and there is an empty folder which says Webpack crash course. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to create one simple file which is simply going to say app.js, or basically let me create a folder first which is going to say app. All right, and this folder is going to have a JavaScript file which is going to say index.js. That's all right. Now consider this as your web application. All right, so this is just a dummy web app that I have created. Consider this is your awesome web applications which is there as an app folder, and there you have multiple JavaScript and CSS files and images file. Here I've just created one app folder and there I've created an index.js. So consider this as an amazing web application. Now I'm going to show you how can you add Webpack here and optimize your code base. All right, so in order to do that, firstly we need to initialize our application. So let me open my terminal here inside the GitHub, and for that let us initialize our project using npm init-y. Now you can see that we have successfully initialized our application, and now let me clear the terminal as well, and we got something known as package.json file. So this means that we have successfully initialized our web application. Now let us install Webpack as well. So before that, let me show you the official website of Webpack. So if you type Webpack, you get this, and you can come here which is webpackjs.org. So this is basically the official website of Webpack, and as you can see that it says it bundles your script, it also bundles your images, right, and much more. It takes your CSS files as well. So as you can see, .js, styles, png, jpg, it takes all your stat files with your dependencies and bundles them, right? So that's the benefit that Webpack gives you. Right now we need to install this Webpack if we want to use it in our application, and installing this is pretty simple. You just need npm, all right, and you just say npm I, and we need to install Webpack. Also, not only Webpack, we also need to install Webpack CLI as well. And simply I'm going to write dash dash save hyphen dev, because this is going to be dev dependencies. We are going to use it during the development purpose, not in the production, right? Because Webpack basically gives you that bundle file which will be using in the production. So that's why we are going to save it as using the dev dependencies, right? So now let me hit the enter, and basically it is going to install Webpack for us. So alright guys, we have successfully installed Webpack. Now let me clear the terminal and close it. And as you can see, inside the dev dependencies, we got Webpack 5 and Webpack CLI 5. Alright, now that Webpack is installed, now in order to use the Webpack, we need to create a Webpack config file. Alright, so you just come here and create a new file, which is going to say webpack.config.js. So this is going to be a config file where we are going to configure our Webpack. Now in this file we are going to write module.export, all right, and this is going to export a long object for us, all right. And now here we are going to write some key value pair, all right, data that is going to help us configure our Webpack. And first basically it is going to be entry point, all right. So what is this entry basically means? So as I told that Webpack takes all your code and bundles it out. So for that we need to say that what is the entry point of your application, from where the Webpack should start implementing the bundling into your code base, right? So we need to define that entry point. So that's what entry point is defined here. So in our application, as you can see that we have this app folder, and inside this index.js file is there. So this is basically going to be the entry point for us, all right. So now let us define that path. So for that we are going to simply say we have an app directory, which is here. We can see that we have app folder, and inside that we have a file which is known as index.js. So here this is going to be the entry point for us. Now once the entry point is defined, we also need to define something known as output also. So output basically means that once Webpack start bundling all this code, now it needs to give you a bundle.js file, right? So Webpack basically gives you a bundle.js file which is a optimized code base. So where that code should be placed, so that's what is defined this in this output object. So that is what we are going to do in a bit. Before that, what we need to do is we need to configure the rest of our Webpack. All right, so I have just explained you what is the entry and output point here. Now we are going to test this output in a bit later. Now first let us configure our Webpack properly and implement it into our code base. Now in order to use Webpack properly, we need to use something known as module. Okay, so now this module is basically nothing but an sets of object where we are going to have something known as rules. So what is rules? Rules basically is an array which is going to have a bunch of objects inside it, right? So here we are going to define all our modules or the loader that we are going to use in the Webpack. So in the Webpack, if you want to do some of the stuff, then we use different Webpack loader. So let's just say we want to import SVGs inside our JavaScript code base, right? So how do we import that SVGs inside our JavaScript code base? So for that we have SVG loader, right? So SVG inline loader. So you just can come here and you simply type SVG inline loader npm, all right, and you're going to get here. So this is the SVG inline loader that we have. Now you just need to come here and you need to install SVG inline loader. So basically here it says that this Webpack loader inlines SVG as module, right? So basically it helps you to use SVG inside your code base. So this is how you can use it inside the dev dependencies. First you need to install this SVG inline loader. Now let me hit enter and install the SVG inline loader as well. Now since the SVG inline loader is installed, now let us see how can we use it. So it's pretty simple. So this is what we need to use it. This is the object which is given in the documentation. You just come here and paste it out here. All right, so this test basically is a regex code. So here it basically says that if you see any SVG file, now you need to, for that, in order to import that SVG file, it is basically saying use this SVG inline loader. All right, so here instead of using loader, we are going to write use, because this is a better industry practices, right? So this is the best practices. So instead of loader, try to use. All right, so test basically means look at all the SVG files, whatever the SVG file you can find it out, and if you find that SVG file, for that you need to use a specific loader, which basically the use keyword is saying. So use is saying that if you find this SVG file, use the SVG inline loader, and using this SVG inline loader, we can import SVG as an inline into our JavaScript code base. All right. Now, not only that, we not only use SVG inside our web app, right? We also use CSS as well. Now we want to import CSS as well inside our code base. So for that, we have something known as CSS loader as well. So we need to use CSS loader, right? You just can come into the npm.js website and you can type it, and there you go. Npm just suggests you out there, and you are going to get this CSS loader. And as you can see, it says that the CSS loader interprets import, and it helps you to basically load all your CSS, right? So if we want to load CSS inside our web application, we need to use CSS loader for it. And here this is how you can import CSS loader. But with CSS loader, we also need to use one more loader, which is known as style loader as well. All right, so what is this style loader? So first, as you all know, that CSS loader helps you to load the CSS file inside our Webpack. Now let us see what does this style loader does, right? So style loader basically helps you to inject all your CSS into your DOM, or basically your index.html file. So basically what Webpack does is Webpack gives you a HTML file and a JavaScript file bundle. Now we want to inject all our CSS inside that HTML file. So in order to inject all those CSS inside our HTML file, we use style loader. So that's why it is saying inject CSS into the DOM. Now for that reason, we need to use style loader as well. And all these things we are going to save it as a dev dependencies, right? Because this Webpack is a development tool. So for that reason, we are installing all these loaders as a dev dependencies. And there you go. We have installed our CSS loader and also our style loader as well. And you can come to the package.json and you can see that we have SVG inline loader, style loader, and the CSS loader as well. Now using it is pretty simple. You can just come here and scroll, and there you go. In the documentation, we got this object. We just need to come here and paste it out. And here it basically means that test basically means that inside this regex we have written that look out for the .css file, and as soon as you find the .css file, use basically says that use this particular loader on it. So here we are saying to Webpack that use the style loader and CSS loader. So whenever the Webpack finds the CSS file, first it applies CSS loader to it so that we can load the CSS code into our app, and then it use style loader so that now we can inject that style or the CSS into our HTML file. All right. For the images or the SVG images, we used SVG inline loader. For the CSS, we use style loader and the CSS loader. Now we have one more very important loader, that is Babel loader. And I know if you're watching this video, you are a JavaScript fan and you love using modern JavaScript syntaxes, right? But not all the browsers supports those modern JavaScript syntax. But if you still want to use it, then you can use Babel loader inside your Webpack as well. So what it allows is gives you is that you can use all those modern fancy JavaScript code into your code base, and when you goes for the product, when the code base goes to the production, you can use Webpack and creates a bundle out of it, and there users need to install the Babel loader, and Babel loader basically transpiles all your code base into a JavaScript code base which is supported by all the browsers, right? So basically it allows you to write all those modern JavaScript code, and once you write it, now when you're bundling it before pushing it to the production, it downgrades all those code and then makes it in such a way that it is being supported in all the browser across the browser. So that's the beauty of Babel loader. So for that we need Babel loader as well if we want to use modern JavaScript syntax. All right, so let us come here and type Babel loader, and there you go. Npm just suggested us, and here it is saying this package allows transpiling JavaScript file using Babel and Webpack. All right, now we just need to install this Babel loader as well, and there you go. You just need to come here and copy this. I'm not installing Webpack because, well, I have already installed Webpack, so I just am going to install it as Babel loader, Babel core, and Babel preset env. All right, so these are the things that we will be installing here. And okay, I haven't copied it properly, and let me come here, copy it, and let me paste it, and let me hit enter. So here the -d also basically symbolizes for dev dependencies. You can either write dash save dev, or you can write -D as well. Now if you come to the package.json, inside the dev dependencies you can see Babel loader as well. All right, there you go. Now let us come to the official website, and you can see this is how we can use Babel loader. All right, so let us come here, copy it, and let me paste it out here. All right, looks right, I made some typo. Let me remove it. Let me come here and copy it properly. All right, and I've entered the comma, and let me paste it out here. Okay, I made a mistake. Basically, I need to copy this as well because, well, this line is checking all our JS file as well. So just copying this won't work, and let me paste it here, this part as well. Now that we have copied all the required object, now I can notice that I have missed one more curly braces. Let me come and write it, and there you go, all the error is gone. And now here you can imagine that this basically checks out for all the JavaScript file, JS file, mjs or css file. All right, and whenever it detects the JavaScript file, it tells it to use all these given loaders out there. So for the loader, it is basically saying to use the Babel loader, and what Babel loader basically does is it takes all your modern fancy JavaScript code and transpile it into a JavaScript code which all the browsers can understand. All right, and basically it works into the production in a pretty good way, right? So that's the importance of Babel loader, and that's why we use Babel loader. And as you can see, we have included one more statement here which basically says exclude node module, which basically means exclude the node modules. Why? Because we basically don't want to apply bundling into the node modules as well, right? Because these are the third-party packages that we are using it, and we don't want to use Babel loader into those as well. So that's why we are saying exclude the node modules. All right, now we use our SVG inline loader, our CSS and style loader, and Babel loader as well. Now let us write our output as well. And as I told that this entry point is basically a point from where your Babel starts bundling your code base, right? And for that we have given our app and index.js. So this is going to be the entry point. And now output is basically a file. Let's just say all your Webpack is being compiled, right? And it is being bundled properly. It is an optimized code. Now in the output, we are going to say, hey Webpack, this is the path where you need to keep all our optimized code base, right? So that's why we have this output object here. So we need to give path to the Webpack. So for that, we are simply going to say path. All right, and here we are going to import our node.js package, all right, which is known as path. So we are simply going to say const path equals to require path, all right. And here what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to come here and I'm going to say path dot resolve, and I'm simply going to say underscore underscore directory name, and I'm going to enter inverted comma, going to say this. So what does this basically mean? So it basically means that path.resolve directory means look out for the directory of the project that we have created, right? So this webpack crash course is the root directory, right? So it is going to look for the root directory, and inside that root directory here we have written dist. So it basically is going to do what webpack is going to do is basically inside this root directory it is going to create a dist folder, and inside this folder it is going to add an optimized JavaScript file, right? So and now we are going to tell Webpack what is the name that we want to give that file, right? So for that we need to give a file name as well. So here we are simply going to call that file to be bundle.js, right? So for that we are going to write bundle.js. So by looking at this path, what Webpack basically does is that Webpack goes to the root directory, and there it is going to create a disk folder, and inside that disk folder basically we have given the file name as bundle.js. So for that reason it is going to create a JavaScript file which is going to be bundle.js, and there we are going to have all our bundled JavaScript file. Also add comma out here so that we can remove that error. All right, now most of the Webpack configuration is done. You can say 90% of the work is done. Now we need to add one more plugin here, right? So which is known as HTML Webpack plugin. So what does this plugin does? So let me come here and explain it to you properly. So let me come and type here HTML Webpack plugin. So basically HTML Webpack plugin allows you to create an HTML file where it is going to inject all your CSS files and JavaScript files. As you can read here, the HTML Webpack plugin simplifies creation of HTML file to serve your Webpack bundle, right? This is especially useful for Webpack bundles that includes such as hash file name. So you they have explained what does the HTML Webpack plugin does in a complete detailed way. So I can explain it to you in a short way. It basically what HTML Webpack plugin does is it creates an index.html file, and it basically is going to link your bundle.js with an index.html file, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have bundled your JavaScript file, you just don't want to show JavaScript file to your users, right? You need some sort of an HTML file so that user can interact with the web application. So this HTML Webpack plugin basically creates that HTML file for you, and then it is basically going to inject your JavaScript into the HTML file, right? So that's what HTML Webpack plugin does. Now for that we need to come and install this. All right, so let me come and copy and open the terminal here and just paste and hit enter, and it is going to install HTML Webpack plugin for us. Alright, the HTML Webpack plugin is installed. Now we need to import it as well. Once it is installed, you just come here and hit enter. Okay, hit enter and just paste the statement. This is basically importing the HTML Webpack plugin which we have just installed, and inside this plugin we basically need this. Let me copy this all, and this is going to be plugins. All right, and we are going to use the HTML Webpack plugin here. Alright guys, I have accidentally removed that curly braces, and let me add that, and then the error is gone. Alright, so and let me remove this terminal as well, and this is the configuration of Webpack looks like. Okay, now let us try to see the Webpack in action. So I have created this index.js. Now before that, what would I like to do is let us come to our package.js file and let us fix our scripting here. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to write start, and here I'm going to simply say Webpack. All right, I'm going to say Webpack, and I'm going to say serve. So that when you run npm run start, basically the Webpack does all its job, and you can use Webpack while you are developing your code as well, or where you are doing your developmental job as well. And we need to add one more script as well, which is going to be a build script. All right, so this build script basically helps you to build your application which is going to go to the production, right? So we are simply going to write build, and we are going to write Webpack here. All right, and one thing that we need to mention into the Webpack is mode. All right, so let me come here and type mode. So this mode basically it checks us whether this code that we are building is we are building for the production or not, right? So for that, if you are building your code base for production, then you just type production here, so that it adds an extra layer of optimization to your code base. So always write production here if you're building it for production. So here I'm writing mode as production. Now let us come here and write some dummy code in our JavaScript file. So let me first simply create a function, and let me name this function as taste Webpack. All right, and let me simply create a variable which basically says const grid, and let me say hello Webpack. All right, let me type it as hello Webpack, and now let me log this grid variable. Okay, let me log this grid here, and let me call this test Webpack here function. Okay, move this, and let me call this test Webpack. Also, just to increase the lines of code, I can return this grid as well, and we can write some more extra lines of code. Here I'm going to simply say grid 2, and I'm simply going to write it as test out here. All right, and I'm simply going to log grade 2, and let me create one more date code as well. So let me write var date code, and I'm going to initialize and type it as date code, and I'm not going to use this variable anywhere. Okay, so we have written some lines of code. Let's just say this is an awesome, beautiful web application. Now you want to take it to the production, but before taking it to the production, you want to build it using the Webpack. So here we have done the Webpack configuration. Now let us create the build, and for that build, as we have written the script as well, which is going to run the Webpack when you type the command npm run build. So let us create the build for us. So let us type npm run build and hit enter. Now Webpack is going to do its magic and going to give you a production ready build folder which you can deploy to the production. As you can see, the build is successful here, and we got this dist folder. As you can see that in the configuration we told Webpack specifically that in the root directory we need a folder which is known as dist, and inside that dist folder we need a bundle.js file where you're going to add all your bundle JavaScript code. So let us open this, and as you can see we got our bundle.js file, and we got all our bundled code as well. And not only that, it also gives us this index.html file to us, and which is a minified, and it has linked our JavaScript file with the bundle.js, and it is done by using this HTML Webpack plugin. Now let us look at the code base, and here you can see that here we have this test Webpack function, we have called it, and we have this grid2 variable. All right, so that here I have assigned grid2 variable, and I have logged it, and I have this date code variable which I haven't used it anywhere. Now if we go to our bundle.js file, then you can see that it has bundled our code in a pretty good way. So first it has logged console.log hello Webpack. All right, so here as you can see that we are saying using grid variable, and we are basically using saying hello Webpack, and we are simply logging it, right? So it basically took all this code base, understood what it is doing, and it implemented it in just one console.log, and it gave us hello Webpack. So that's the beauty of Webpack, right? And it removed all this unnecessary code that we have been writing here. And another is here, as you can see, we have a variable which is grid2 test, and I was logging grid2, which basically means I was logging console.log test, and hence it gives us console.log test. But as you can see, you can't find any validate code here because, well, this is a variable that we haven't used it anywhere. So these are the things that we were using in our code base so that it optimized and it gives us this the end result. But here this where that code we were not using anywhere inside our code base, and hence it just removed, right? So that's the beauty of Webpack, and that's why I was saying that you should use into your code base if you're trying to go your application and make it live for the large user base. Webpack comes really handy. So alright guys, I hope that now you understood the importance of Webpack and how can you implement it to your code base. So if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.